Welcome to this Java Break with Basis. Today's topic is on-the-fly backup and copy, which exploits Basis's online copy job feature. Let's have a look at the agenda for today. We'll firstly have a discussion about what it actually entails and how it works. And then we'll follow up with a demonstration, and then we'll do a live Q&A session, the transcript of which will become available online. So firstly, probably the most significant feature of the online copy job is that it allows you to do on-the-fly copies. And that is live, while the system is in production, while users are making changes to the data file, adding new records, changing existing records, or deleting records. The online copy job traps and makes sure that all of those changes are propagated to the copied version of the data file. So let's talk more about the components. First component is the Enterprise Manager Database Management System utility. That's essentially where it is. It's housed in the Enterprise Manager and it operates on the database. No data dictionary, of course, is required. It delivers a user interface, and underneath the covers, the implementation is a system-level trigger that will operate on the data file while it's in use. There are two alternatives to the Enterprise Manager utility. One is it delivers a single table or file copy with modifications to that table. And two, it gives you a facility to select a directory to do multiple table or file copies, most commonly known as a backup copy. So let's discuss some use cases. The most common and natural one is backing up live data. Now, generally one may back up live data overnight, but perhaps circumstances dictate that you wish to make a backup copy at a set data point. Perhaps a month-end process has completed, or a particular processing stage has been reached in the production cycle, and you wish to make a copy at that point. Now, commonly you would need your users to log out for a period of time while the backup completes, and then allow them to log back in. With the online copy job feature, you can begin your copy well before your data point is reached. When your data point is reached, the synchronization can be switched off, the users logged out, and now you have a full backup, allowing your users to come back in and continue working with the minimal disruption to their daily efforts. The other use case would be to change data file structure, either adding a new key to a data file. Perhaps you're utilizing the iReports facility to do ad hoc reporting, and that requires an additional key for an efficient extraction of that data. And so you can make that change to the data file structure while the system is in production, and then once again quiesce the system, end the copy job, and restart with a new data file in place. In most cases, if you're merely adding a key, there's no need to change your underlying application at all. The other use case would be for a data file structure change, maybe necessitated by a change to the application, adding a new field, or perhaps extending a key field value. Perhaps it's an email address that needs to be made longer, or perhaps it's a case of applying encryption, AES 256-bit encryption to a data field, or perhaps a credit card number, and of course the new value of that credit card in 256-bit encryption is going to be longer than the existing credit card value. So you can effect that change to a transactional data file or to a master file while the system is in production, quiesce the system again, bring the users out of the system, implement the new application software, change the data files, and restart the system with minimal downtime. You could make a copy of data for active development, so take a snapshot of your production data for use in your QA process. Another good example of a use case would be to convert the data to a more advanced file type. In adding those additional keys or key segments necessitated by the use of third-party SQL type query tools, you may have run out and hit a limitation of perhaps the mkeyed file type. The xkeyed file type has unlimited key segments and unlimited keys. So that would be a good use case for making that change. Or perhaps you want to take advantage of the v-keyed file structure, our variable length file structure. And of course, both of those generally require minimal application changes, normally in the area of a utility. What are some of the planned enhancements that we have for the online copy job? This is really based on the user feedback that we've received from the field, and there are several that will start appearing in our nightly builds and are due for release in the BBJ 10 product. One is to allow a scheduled job start time, so to schedule the start of a job. Two is to schedule a recurring job. And of course, in order to create those capabilities, we need to give you the ability to save and store jobs and rerun them time after time. So give you the facility to create a library of jobs. And then lastly, there has been a request for us to resolve the contents of a directory for a backup at runtime rather than at job creation time. So all of those are planned enhancements to the product. Let's have a look at a demonstration of the product in action.
Okay, so the first thing we'll do is demonstrate how to quickly build a copy job that actually copies a complete directory of data files to a backup location. Now this process can happen while those data files are in use by your live application, which means that you don't have to take down your application for any amount of time to create a backup of these files. The backup files will be in perfect condition and they'll be ready to use should you need to go back and use those backup files. So let's first talk about how the process that will happen during this copy operation. First off, when the backup job begins, it will make a new file with the same structure as the original file, and that will be put in the backup location. Next, it will begin to copy each record from the source files to the destination files. Now, if any changes are made to the source files during this copy operation, those changes are going to be propagated to this new file. And so over time, the destination file is going to eventually become completely in sync with the source file, and this is dependent on the size of those data files. If it's large multi-gig data files, this may take a while. And that's the beauty of this, is that since you don't have to take your system down, it really doesn't matter too much how long this takes. Now, when all the parts of the job reach 100% of completion, then you can finish the job. And basically what finishing a job does is it takes a snapshot of those data files at that particular point in time. And so now you have a perfect in-sync copy of your database at that particular point in time. So let's show how we would do this. It's very simple. In the Enterprise Manager, we click on the Online Copy Job item, and that's going to bring up our area here, which shows the current copy jobs that are running on our server. To create a new one, we click on the Create New button down here, and then we're going to give it a name. The delay between record copies is a way that you can tell your server to take a break in between copying records, and that way it doesn't become too bogged down by this copy operation. So this is the number of milliseconds that we want it to delay in between each read operation. You can use fractional milliseconds, so we could say 0.1 millisecond. That way it'll happen quicker, but it might put a little tax on our server. So that's something you just need to play around with because it's going to depend on what kind of a server you have set up. The next one is use advisory locking, and that tells the system whether to use advisory locking when accessing these data files. If your application is using advisory locking, you would need to turn that on. So let's show how we'd copy this directory. We're going to come over here to the side here, and we're going to click on the folder icon. Now what we see here is the directory that we want to use, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to copy all the files from my Chili Company data directory. Now it asks if we'd like those created in a different location. If we don't, it will just create a copy of that file with the .backup extension. We're going to go ahead and create it in a different location to keep things clean, and we're going to stick it in a directory called backup. Now what that does is it adds all of those data files to our job, and now it's ready to save. We're going to give our job a name. This is the name of the data file that will be created, and it will have a .ocj extension. And now we're ready to run that job. We could have created any number of jobs before running any of them. It just stores that information in that data file. But let's run that job now. As we run the job, we locate it, and it immediately starts our job. And as you can see, there's different progress on different data files depending on their size. So some are at 100%, some are at 0. If this was a real live data file, or real live application system, we might see some of these at various levels throughout the time. As we click refresh, it will update the progress and we can see how our job is doing. Now this particular job is using small data files, and so it finishes very quickly. But you can see here all the files that are being copied. Now we're ready to finish because we're at 100%. And so we're going to take a snapshot, and now that job is complete. And if we go back over and look at our backup directory, we can see all of the data files that were copied with our copy job. Basically what we have here is a snapshot of our original source directory at the point in time where we clicked that finish button. Okay, now that we've seen how easy it is to copy a complete directory of data files, let's look at how easy it is to add another data file to that copy job to be copied. So to do that, we're going to edit our copy job. So we're going to click the Edit Job button. We're going to locate our copy job definition file, which is our .ocj file, and so we're going to double click on that there, and we bring that up and we see our list of files that are currently being copied. Now to add another file, we just click the Add File button. You'll notice this dialog has a lot of extra information, and we'll see that later on what each of these various fields do. But for our purposes now, all we need to do is specify a source file, and so let's grab one of our data dictionary files and a destination file. And again, we want to create a file.1, but we want to put this also in our backup directory. So you notice we have this being created in the backup directory with the same data file name. At this point we are ready to add that to it because we don't care about these other features. We're not going to be making any changes to the file structure. Now that file has been added to our job, so we can save our job again, and now it's ready to run. So should we run that job now, you can see the progressing there as I hit refresh, and it's now at 100%. So we can click finish, and it finishes that job for us. And now when we come over into the directory, we will see the file.1 file, which we just copied, which we just added to our copy job. And we see that that gets copied over in place as well as all the other data files. In this final section, we'll look at the true power of the online copy job, and that is in the modification of the structure of data files. And this includes adding, removing keys, or changing the record size, the file type, and even the record layout. And you can do this with any number of files, and the beauty is, again, this can be done while that data file is being used, including modified by your application. So as we look at changing the structure of a data file, what we're going to be seeing is a walkthrough of the process of creating a modification operation. This is a little different than the copy operation or the backup operation. Next, we're going to show how to change the columns and the sizes of the columns in a data file. We'll also look at a column mapping section in our dialog where we can map source columns to destination columns should we decide that we want to rename a column or add a new column and copy data from one column to another column. We're going to look at the ability to change the file type and the record size, and then we're going to show how you can specify a new key structure for that destination file. We're now ready to go ahead and create a copy job that actually performs a modification to an existing data file structure, and again that data file can be modified even while it is still in use by your BBJ application. So let's create a new job. We'll call it modification, and we'll add a data file. We're going to go ahead and work with the Chili Company data file called customer. Let's create a destination file, customer, and then we'll give it an extension here of .new. That will help us keep it straight. Now, this gives us several features here. We can put in a string template if we want to, or we could just leave it as it is. Right now we have source file, destination file, shows us what our key structure is. So if you're not using string templates, you can use this just as easily to make modifications to a data file. You can see that familiar BBJ notation for key definitions and segment definitions. However, if we want to paste a string template in here, we suddenly get nice, easy to read column names. We'll paste that same template in for our destination, and now look here, we have mappings, one-to-one mappings from all of the fields from the source file to the destination file. This gives you the ability to actually change the mappings if you'd like. You could change, for example, the billing address and have it go into the salesperson field. While that's not very useful for this, there are a number of very good uses for this feature. You'll see one here in just a minute. Now you can also specify the data file type that you want the destination file to be. By default, this will be set to what the source file type is, but for our purposes, let's go ahead and change it to X-keyed. Now we could give it a record size if we wanted to, if we knew exactly what record size we wanted. However, if we leave it blank, then the system will automatically calculate the required record size according to the destination template. In the key size, if this was a single keyed mkeyed file, we could specify a key size. However, in this particular case, we're using a multi-keyed file, so we want to leave that at 0. Now down here we can see all of the keys that are currently defined on the source data file, and if we leave it just as it is, then our destination file will look exactly the same. However, we want to make some modifications to this file. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dump the credit code field from the destination. Let's say we don't need that information anymore. We don't want it in our database. Now if we look down here for credit code being mapped from the source file, there suddenly is no column here. That indicates that the data that's in this field will disappear from the destination file. We can also go in and change the sizes of fields. For example, here we can change this to 50 for first name, and we can change this one also for last name. And now we'll have an increase in the size of these fields. We've dropped a field, and now we can even come down here and we can drop some indexes off of here. Let's say we don't need those anymore, and let's say we want to add a new key, and let's say we just want to put it on the billing address field for whatever reason. Notice that's added here now. Now when we run this job, it will actually make these modifications for us. The beauty of it is it will make all those modifications in one step. So our destination file will immediately have the different look and the different structure that we've defined for it here. So let's save that. Now we see our file, and we know that it's a template mapped operation here, and so we can quickly tell what type of operation is going to happen on those files. When we save our job, it's now ready to run. And so we can run that job now, and when we run it, we see the progress of the operation here. We see that it's at 100% here, and that means that it's ready to finish.
Right, we've had an opportunity to see the online copy job in action, seen it doing both a copy of a job, changing the structure of a data file, and also seen it affect a backup of a directory set. So let's take your questions and answers at this point. Don't forget to look out for our next Java break, which we'll be doing on the 30th of December. And the topic will be Barista, showing you how to transition to a modern graphical look with very little effort.